then there's room inside you for the energy of God to be there. If you keep beating yourself up, there's no room inside. You're full of fear and insecurity and ego. So the whole purpose of the meditation is to transform all that stuff into a big open well. We are a receptacle for higher energy in the universe, God, whatever you want to call it. So everybody work deeply inside, and we'll have a meditation class. And then afterwards, if there are any questions, I will try to answer them. Muted everyone, and does anyone have a question they would like to ask?
Hey, Stuart, I have a question.
Yes.
I think I'm holding myself back with a pattern. During the weeks, I'm healthy and meditating and growing. And then on the weekends, I slip into unconscious behavior and unhealthy eating and drinking. How can I break that pattern?
I mean, look, you know what you're doing, so you just don't do it, you know? You know exactly what you're doing, and you just say, no, I need a better way of living than this. Just say to yourself. And yes, these things are they're habits, they're hard to stop. But if look, when I was younger, I used to smoke, at least a pack of cigarettes a day. And I one day said to myself, I don't need this anymore. Never touch the cigarette again. Just quit, cold turkey. Never touch the cigarette again. When I went back to New York from Texas, where you couldn't get a decent slice of pizza, I would go to Stromboli's on University Place and have at least a slice or two every afternoon about 5 o'clock. And it was upsetting my stomach. And I said, I don't need this. So I stopped. I haven't had a slice of pizza since literally 1982. You have to have a little bit of willpower and say to yourself, make conscious choices about how you want to live your life. And don't spend the entire week building up consciousness to throw it away on the weekends, And if your friends and the people you hang out with demand that, then find other friends, You have to be willing to let go of something. The same thing with alcohol. I used to, I one day said, it's enough. I don't need this. This is no good for me. I stopped. I think I've had a drink in 20 years. Not even a beer, It's will, you understand? And you have a meditation practice that builds a system inside that enables you to do this, to say, no, I don't need to do things that are tearing me apart, that are bringing down my inner life, my spiritual life, my life, period. And then you just stop. I don't know how else to advise you. I can only advise you from what I went through. I had plenty of habits, when I was younger. And one by one, I said, no, that's it, no more. And yeah, at first it wasn't easy, but then, you stop missing these things. Other things come to you that are much better. Instead of alcohol, you drink water, and there's a lot of good water in the marketplace today, there really is, all this 9.5 water that, healthy water. You say, what do I need? What does my body want? What does my mind want? What does my spiritual life want? And you let go of all that stuff. Say, no, I don't need it. It's just a matter of willpower. And if you do this meditation and you do it in a very deep way, I don't mean a superficial way, you will develop the will power to say no to a lot of things that do nothing but, create an unhealthy situation. And sometimes you got to let go of friends and situations and parties. And I mean, I used to go to, when I, years ago, when not years, yeah, I don't know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I would go to cocktail parties in New York. And I was the only one there who didn't drink. Oh, you got to have a glass of wine, you got to ice. And all these people are getting drunk in front of me. And they wanted me to become like them. And I said to them, no. I said, I don't drink. I'll have some Perrier. It's fine. I don't tell you not to drink. It's none of my business if you want to drink. Then I stopped going to those parties because I really found them to be very boring. Everybody was getting drunk around me. And I said, who needs it? I don't need to be around that kind of energy. Does anyone else ever? I hope that's clear. I mean, I can only talk from my own experience. And I can only end this with, we do a meditation that if you do this deeply, I said this already, but I'll say it again. If you do this really deeply inside and you go into the chakra system and develop them, you will develop the willpower to say no to things that are unhealthy in your life. And I'm not being a fanatic. I mean, look, if you like to have a glass of wine occasionally, it's all right. I never liked the taste of alcohol, so it was very fine for me not to have anything. But if a glass of wine, dinner occasion, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're doing dope and marijuana and, drugs, that's something that will really bring down your spiritual life. That's something that'll just make you a space cadet and destroy the whole chakra system. And it's also something that if I ever found out you're doing it, I wouldn't allow you in these classes. I'm not interested. I can't work against that. I really can't, because it works in the same areas that, meditation works in, but it just destroys the inner life of a human being. It eats the very cells in your brain and destroys and atrophies the chakra system. And again, I'm not saying this because I didn't go through it. I did, and it took me I'd say 3-4 years to finally burn out of my system all the damage that drugs had done to me. Maybe even longer than that when I was younger. And I remember that sigh of relief when Rudy said, I want you to come study with me, but on the one condition, no more drugs. And it was like, it was like a voice of God talking to me. And I never touched drugs again. I knew I needed what he had to teach me more than I needed a joint. I mean, it was much more important for me than smoking a joint and getting stoned and lying there in a totally wasted, spaced out state of being. It was it became irrelevant to what I wanted in my life. Does anyone else have a question they'd like to ask? I don't like to lecture on things I read. I mean, I try to talk out of my own life, of what I've been through. And most of your questions, like your question, Michael, I've been through it, So I'm just sharing with you what I went through and how I built the inner strength to say no to all these things. Because my spiritual life was more important than cigarettes, alcohol, marijuana, LSD, And now people do this stuff called ayahuasca, which is DMT, which I also did when I was younger. And I'm telling you, it's really dangerous stuff, man. It's really dangerous stuff. I had a friend of mine who, one of those, DMT trips, he was 19 years old and he burned to death in one of those trips. Very close friend of mine. I used to really like him very much. It was very sad for me when that happened. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? And I was about 21 years old at the time. And it was so interesting. This young man, he was French, and he really wanted a spiritual life. And, but he was so involved in drugs that he couldn't get, and he was the first one who ever told me about Rudy. He told me that there's a guy in Greenwich Village named Rudy who's supposed to be an extraordinary teacher. And he went to Rudy to go to, and Rudy wouldn't take him because he wouldn't give up drugs. And maybe 2 years later, this poor kid died, of fire, during one of those, what he called sessions with DMT. And I also, there's a novelette that I wrote called The Dancing Man. And he has a place in that guy, really, one of the characters is based on him. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? I remember once I was in Boulder, Colorado, and I went to see this Rinpoche, or a guy who was running a lamasery there. And the Rinpoche, who I think had died, he was very famous for drinking. He used to drink a lot. And the guy who kind of took over for him, I was given an interview with him. And I remember going there wanting to ask him, he's supposed to know a lot about Tibetan tantric practice. And I remember going there, sitting in his office, and he's sitting there drinking scotch in front of me and getting drunk while this session is going on. And boy, did I have to surrender very deeply. I really did, because I didn't want to get upset and yell at him and what the fuck are you doing? And what kind of shit is this, And I just had to stay quiet. And it really forced me to go deep inside myself and to get very, very quiet. And just, this is what his path. Let him be. Let him be. It's not your business. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? And you're not the only one, Michael, that has these, everybody has them. You all have. And we have to just get the willpower inside to say, no, we don't need this in our life. Spiritual life is more important. And when you have a spiritual life, it doesn't take the adventure out of life. It really adds to it. I mean, I'm telling you, from the day I met Rudy to this day, You know, the adventure has been something beyond belief of what my life has been. Even this COVID-19 thing is like, my God, you know, why does one have to live through this? It's like something, well, found Zoom, connecting with people all over the world. And you know, you got to make life work for you. And you can't make life work for you by sustaining bad habits and doing things that are hurting you. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, you just mentioned about getting quiet and the overwhelm that sometimes takes place. Can you just speak to like that process of becoming quiet within?
Well, becoming quiet, you know, the overwhelm is all right, especially if it's Shakti and energy. That's, you know, that you're trying to absorb inside you. So when I talk about being quiet, I mean the rattling of the mind, that endless yakking, the tensions inside, the fears, the insecurities that run rampant inside people and cripple them. And when I talk about being quiet, that's what I'm talking about. In these classes, the energies are very strong and you can be a little bit overwhelmed. That's all right. You can take in as much as you can take in. You build the inner strength, and the next class you take in a little more. But the real culprit in this, you know, world is that mind that never shuts up. I once wrote a poem. Actually, it became a song that I was working with this Japanese, you know, group, and they used to ask me for lyrics. I wrote a poem. It was kind of like a Zen poem, you know. And it was like, I can't remember exactly, but it was something to the effect, you know, it's night, I'm in the forest, the birds are still, the crickets are still, you know, and then if only my mind would just shut up. You know? And that really is the key to this, getting the mind quiet. And that's when I talk about being still, getting the mind quiet so that you can receive knowledge, wisdom, understand the wisdom of God is real knowledge, not what the brain fabricates. You know, and is constantly creating all kinds of traps for us. But we have to be still inside in order to receive that real knowledge. We have to be still inside for the heart to open, for there to be harmony and balance inside us, for there to be real chi inside us working in our lives. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, thank you. God bless you all. And couldn't do this without you, you know, thank you. I mean, every one of you just fits so deeply in my heart. I mean it, you know, and I'm so grateful to see people attending these classes regularly and just being able to share many of the things of my own life that maybe can help you find ways of building a connection with God. So God bless you. Thank you. There'll be a class again on Wednesday. I hope to see everybody at the class. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Stuart.
very much, Stuart. Good night.